Welcome to the next episode of CruzTalks. I'm your host, Just Cruz. This episode, we're going to go into the hard reality of being a veteran and trying to simplify, is it a thank you for your service or a fuck you for your service? Let's get into it. So I know that sounds kind of harsh, just starting off. Like, is it thank you or fuck you? Like, which one is it? Like, it's hard to comprehend at times, but it's looking into the situation where you are dealing with veterans, and veterans are going through a lot right now, especially with upcoming changes that are coming to disability claims. Now, you have tinnitus or tinnitus, however people like to say it, and you have sleep apnea, which are about to be changed. Now, these are things that service members deal with. Tinnitus is something that, hey, if you're at a range, you're firing weapons, that's something in the military, no matter where you are, you're going to fire a weapon because you have to qualify with the weapon. At least with the Army, every 6 months you had to qualify. Sometimes, depending on the unit, you will qualify more often if there was more ammunition to fire, or if, hey, they wanted you to just be ahead of the game, somebody had extra rounds and they was like, hey, we got open spots or open slots for people to fire, we're going to send them. So people are going to deal with that, and people are going to get tinnitus. People are going to deal with the issues of possibly having ringing in their ear, and now to remove that entirely from the situation and make it a claim that is not going to be a first hand claim, it's going to be a secondary now. So it's going to be secondary to something else. Now it's kind of hard to distinguish that because I have tinnitus. It was at a range. I fired. Ear started ringing after that. And it's been ringing ever since. And it's like you have somebody flatlining in your head constantly, randomly. And it's not something that just goes out. I have hearing loss on my ear also. So it's like they're trying to say that with tinnitus, if you don't have hearing loss, or if your ear isn't about to fall off, or if you don't have any other issues with your ear, that they're just going to try to remove the claim. So, one thing that's why it's like, is it fuck you for your service? Because it's like you're doing all these things and you're trying to remove stuff that veterans are dealing with when it comes to sleep apnea and tinnitus. Now, with that situation, it's like you have veterans that connect things via tinnitus or sleep apnea. Most of the time with tinnitus, when you got that ringing in your ear, it's uncomfortable. You can't sleep. You might get migraines off of it. You might get other symptoms and other things. And that's why people use that as a connecting factor to do that. Now, does it always work? No, because you still have to have proof that you have tinnitus. Tinnitus can't be, what's the best way of saying it? It can't be I wouldn't say researched. But you can research it. You can't prove that a person has tinnitus because there's no way of testing for it. Basically, they'll send you to audiology to see if you have any hearing loss or you have any issues. I have fluttering in my ear also. Now they don't tell me. They didn't tell me it was that. They just said, "Oh, I have loss of hearing." I was like, "But I hear a thud. It's like I have a loose bass drum in my ear at times." Now that's something that is just like you're gonna tell me that if I go back and get looked at, and my hearing doesn't get worse, there's a possibility you might try to get my rating taken away. So it's like a lot of service members fight for these claims. They have to prove a lot of these claims and a lot of these things that have already happened and they're dealing with. Sleep apnea, something I'm also diagnosed with. I have a CPAP machine. Some people deal with that because they don't sleep well in the military. You know what it is, pulling 24-hour shifts or being in a austere environment, whether that's in the woods, in the snow, in the sand, all those different locations. You got people and you put them through stressful situations because you're trying to see how they react to lack of sleep, lack of because sometimes it's even lack of nutrition because sometimes people don't even get fed right. Have y'all seen the pictures of the stuff that people get fed when it's just like a piece of bread, half a scoop of eggs, runny eggs. They ain't even full eggs. It's more liquid than anything. And maybe an apple. And I was like, and that's supposed to sustain you for how many hours? Or for most of the day? And it's just like, yeah, there's a lot more issues to that. Now you have sleep apnea, which they're trying to make changes to that also. So both these situations, they're trying to change them in order to lessen the amount of veterans that have these claims, because tinnitus is 10%. It's not a major claim, but 10% goes a long way when that 10% can be connected to many other things. Like I said, migraines. Migraines, if you have tinnitus and that's 10%, you can connect migraines and that shows that you're getting migraines because of it. Migraines is 50%. Sleep apnea is 50%. Now, if you get those two together, you're at 75% off the bat. With tinnitus, you might get yourself at 80. Now, people are probably wondering, like, 50 plus 50 equals 80. Like, what kind of math? Like, this guy's an idiot. And it's just like, no, that's how the math with the VA works. It's a percentage. It's like the best way I had somebody explain it to me, or I seen somebody explain it, is like you have a piece of a pie. You have a whole pie, 100%. Now, first disability is 10%. You're taking 10% of that pie. You're left with 90% left. Your rating is 10%, but you still have 90% of that pie. So your next disability rating, whatever percentage that is that percentage of what's left of the pie. And you keep on subtracting that. Now, when you're left with zero, which is basically you've reached 100%, that's when you're at 100. It's not 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's a percentage of what's left that you're removing. Now, if you're making it more difficult and you're removing items that people are dealing with, that's a thing. So it's like, what are y'all doing this to the veterans? It's like, you, it's always a thank you, right? The thank you goes very shortly, especially when it's like, oh, we're going to cut funding for you guys, or we're going to remove this, or the VA has been taking money over here, the VA has been losing money over there. And it's just like, it's not thank you for our service. It's like veterans should not be fighting this hard to obtain stuff or keep claims of stuff that's happening. Now, I do know that some people do try to take advantage of it. Some people do over exaggerate. I guess the best way of saying it is the issues that they have that lead to secondary conditions. But at the same time, it's like that's on the VA not providing adequate personnel, doctors, or VA raters to actually look at the information. Because there's a lot of information that's put into these claims that VA raters just skip out. Sometimes there's like buddy statements, or buddy statements, or even statements of themselves that basically highlight and show what happened, what's going on, what's doing this, what happened to me during this time, or was this person present when this happened, or this person witnessed, like, hey, this person is not the same person I used to know. They used to be outgoing. They used to be able to have fun outdoors. Now it's like, hey, whenever they go to a restaurant, they're like finicky. They're like moving around. They're just like paying attention to all exits, and it's something I do too. But it's something like that that is just like you're trying to downplay certain things that veterans go through because you want to save a couple of bucks here and there. Because tonight this is a 10% payment. That's automatic because they can't prove that you don't have it. But the thing is a lot of people deal with it, and a lot of people have hearing loss after the fact. Your hearing is not the same. It's like it's not like I'm off balance, but you can notice like when there's a flat line in your ear just going to beep, and it's just like you're not at a hospital, but you think you're hearing something in the house or something that's going off, but no, it's in your ear and you have no way of stopping it. Sleep apnea. When you're going to sleep and you stop breathing, people don't understand that. Like the amount of military personnel that deal with this issue is crazy. I was just like, the amount of people I told while I was in the service, hey man, you should get checked out for it. Why? Because it's like you shouldn't be drinking 3 cups of coffee throughout the day just to just to make yourself feel like you're energized. Because you just have the certain symptoms. It's like, hey, we're have you been sleeping? I was like, yeah, I slept for like 12 hours, but it felt like I slept for like two. So that's one of the signs. I was just like, oh, you wake up groggy, you're always tired, you sleep a lot but don't feel rested. You always need coffee, you always need energy drinks. You eat well and do all this stuff, but you still feel tired. And it's just like those are certain signs that started. Um, the way they explain it, when they explain it to people, it's downright scary when they tell you, "Oh, yeah, you stop breathing multiple times per hour. Not even like per night. It's like multiple times per hour, and this is how bad it is." And there's certain levels to it. There's like the moderate, there's the severe, and there's just like the regular. And it's just like you deal with it, and it's just like, man, I was just like, I stopped breathing this many times throughout the night, and people don't understand that, and it's just like that has an effect because your body recharges while you're sleeping. But if you're not giving your body the oxygen it needs to replenish itself, that's where you run into these issues. Now, one of the things is like you're trying to remove that because why? It's 50%. But the thing is people are getting the sleep studies, but they're possibly making changes to it. So it's not yet set in stone, but it's something that people are trying to push into law to change that tinnitus, sleep apnea. Who knows what else they're gonna try to keep on adding to try to take away from veterans. So that's why it's like fuck you, I guess, right? Because it's like you're not trying to thank me, you're not trying to help me, you're trying to take away things that basically benefit and help a lot of veterans. Because there's a lot of veterans that deal with this issue, and some of them don't even know that they do. Because a lot of the times they don't even get diagnosed within the military. Sometimes it's after the fact. But then me, I got a sleep study because I was like, look, I'm dead ass tired. I sleep for a long amount of time. I'm in great shape. This is and I feel exhausted. I eat well. And I was just like, well, got a sleep study done. Oh, you got severe sleep apnea. I was like, oh shit, okay, yeah, you stopped breathing this many times. I was like, oh, whoa, whoa. I was like, hold on, is that? Am I gonna live like long or something? It's like, and it's something that's just like you're trying to take that away, but it's just like people deal with that. That's part of the percentage I have. Tonight is part of the percentage I have. Now you're trying to remove that stuff. Now there's different things that it comes to that it's like, hey, fuck you for your service. You know why? Because if shit hits the fan and we need to shut down the government or we need to cut funding here and there, let's go for the veterans. And it's like, hold on, you want these people to give, or for the army, be all you can be, right? But then once they're done being all they can be for you, you can give a shit less about them. And that turned into a problem because it's like you're causing issues for people like, hey, they don't give a shit. I was like, that's why many veterans don't file for anything. Like previous, like me, like in school, just asking questions, asking veterans, it's like, why haven't you filed? It was like, I didn't think I needed it, or I think others need it more than I do. And it's just like, bro, if you need it, you need it. And like, it doesn't matter if you think you do or don't. It's like something that you need to know to do and something that you need to figure out. But it's like the VA is always trying to take away stuff, or Congress is trying to take away stuff, or they're trying to add stuff that diminishes what you already have. So it's like now you have a bunch of veterans that are concerned that it's like, because another thing that's like fuck you for your service was a report that came out that was last year that it came out. I haven't seen it redone, but it's something that they should probably look into again, which was that a lot of veterans were getting ratings or being reevaluated when they weren't supposed to. So basically, it was like, let's say I have tinnitus. Well, the tinnitus isn't getting any worse. I haven't made any claims or said anything about it getting worse when I've been checked on it and stuff like that. So since they see that, oh, he hasn't made any claims towards it, his hearing hasn't gotten worse, let's reevaluate him, and then now let's remove tinnitus off of the thing and drop his percentage. Now they can't take away the service connection, that they cannot do. And that's, I think, one of the big things, because that's one of the biggest fights, is just to try to connect stuff and say it happened in the military, even though you have the documentation and you still get denied, which is like, I can't, I still can't believe it. And it's hard for me to like understand that is just like you have the documentation showing it happened while the person was in service, but it's still denied. But it's just like that fight and those issues that keep on changing, removing funding, losing funding. Those are things that is just like, hey, it's fuck you for your service, not thank you. Now, for the thank you part, there are a lot of things that the VA does do. They are working on better representation, I guess the best way of putting it, because you have the VA representatives, you have the VSOs, and then the big thing that where I would say is a thank you, it's dealing with the VA claim sharks. Now, that's a topic within itself that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people try to stay quiet about. Some people don't even know that they're getting basically is conned is the best way of doing it because it's like by law, a representative can only take a certain amount of money for representing you or helping you with your claim. That's why with me, it's like I ain't charging nobody. I'm just trying to educate people, give people the information that they can easily find, but most of the time they just don't know where to find it at. Now you have, I believe it was like VA Claims Insider. I think that's the company. These people are what you would say, I guess, are claim sharks. So basically, if anybody is trying to, if any veteran is going to file a claim with any organization, if that organization is taking like a large percentage, I think it's, you can only charge a certain amount, but if you're getting a monthly or paying a monthly fee for these people getting you that rating, that is a shark. That's like basically like the mob. You paying the mob every month. It was like, hey man, you got me 100% permanent total. I'm gonna be paying you $300 a month for the rest of my life. No, it's not supposed to work that way. That's why I was like with the VSOs, they're great people. Some are terrible, but they're working on that. The same thing with like Congress, they're working on these VA claims. Some of the organizations, like it was a Veteran of Foreign Wars, they made that claim against the VA Claims Insider. I know an attorney in Texas decided to file a suit against that VA Claims Insider because of them being loan sharks. So that in that aspect, yes, the VA and Congress is working for. That is a thank you for your service because it's like, hey, we're looking out for you. It's like you earned these benefits, these entitlements. We're gonna help you, and we're gonna make sure that you don't have somebody else taking away from them. That isn't necessary. Like a lot of these payments are not necessary when it's for free. You can literally go to a VSO and get it for free. Now, you have other things like the PACT Act. That was a thank you for your service. Why? Because you had so many people from Vietnam, the Korean Wars, um, shit, operations Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, all of these, dealing with burn pits and all that stuff. I was just like, a lot of people were coming out with cancer and they weren't tying it to the military. So a way of making sure you're looking out for these veterans is like, hey, you have this that you can claim because we knew you did this kind of stuff. That's basically the lamest way of putting it. But it was just like, hey, you served in these areas. We knew and we know that these areas either were radioactive, they were with Agent Orange, or it was just not breathing conditions that people should be working in, and you were working in it for a certain amount of time. So if you served in these areas in this amount of time, you can file a claim for it. So that I think was a thank you to past generations of people that were at war or in combat zones or in those designated areas, that it was a way of saying thank you for your service. It was like, we thank you for the sacrifices you did, and now we understand and see that you are dealing with issues that may be hurting you or even your family, because some of it is just like with a toll, and I think it's scoliosis. Was it scoliosis? I know it was like there's different diseases that are being passed down to the next generation of these veterans because of where they served. So this is a way of taking care of them and paying them back for that. So that way it's like, yeah, we understand we fucked up, but we want to thank you and we want to help you by doing these things. Now, like I said, there's a bunch of people that are working for it to say thank you. It's not all of them that are not trying to thank veterans. Um, but at the same time, it's like dealing with veterans themselves. Some veterans towards other veterans is like, fuck you. And then some of them is like, thank you. Some of it is like, hey, they want to help you out or they want to know what they deal with. And then other ones is like, nah, I don't really give a shit what you got. I did mine. I took care of mine. And your service was not as good as my service. And it's just like you hear that and it's just like, really, this is how we treating each other. So it's just like, well, if we're not helping each other out, why would a higher entity look to help us out? Like Congress ain't gonna help us out unless we call them. Now with this fuck you part of the tinnitus and the sleep apnea, it's, hey, we gotta contact Congress to get this shit to stop. We gotta contact them and be like, hey, no, we deal with tinnitus, we deal with sleep apnea. And the thing is one thing that people aren't understanding and realizing is active duty. These changes are going to affect the active duty population going forward. So, if let's say 2024 they decide, hey, tinnitus and sleep apnea are gone. I just had a couple of my buddies do a sleep study and they came out with sleep apnea. Now, I don't know how people develop this stuff. That's something that's a good question. Maybe the army should figure that out. But the fact that it was like, hey, most people got into the army, didn't have these issues. They leave the army, they have this issue. So it's something within the army. Tinnitus, we shooting guns. It's gonna be a time where something happens that either uh, a earplug goes on, but then you also had the, what was it, the 3mm or 3M lawsuit for the ear pro that weren't functioning correctly. So you mean to tell me that all those people that got tinnitus possibly from those earplugs while in service, if their hearing hasn't gotten worse or may not get worse, they may lose their rating and it might not count towards something else and it can't be connected. So it's gonna be like a waterfall effect or a trickle down effect where you're gonna see certain things and it's just like, hey, if they start taking away stuff, and it was like, when does it stop? And that's the thing that people I don't think are realizing. And I don't think veterans are understanding that because some of them are permanent and total and they just see it as, well, I'm permanent and total, I don't got to worry about this. The issue is that yes, you do have to worry about this because of the fact that there's changes. These changes affect all veterans. It's not just because, hey, you have your rating, it's there. Now, for some, it's like the 5 year rating where it's been worse like that. It can't get any worse or it can't be deducted. But the thing is for somebody that's just trying to get these ratings or they just get diagnosed with it after the fact. I was like, some people have had ringing in their ears and they just take it as ringing in their ears. They didn't know it was tinnitus. Some people get headaches. Some people get migraines. Some of them have them connected. Some of them have them because of their back issues. It was like there's a lot of connections, but once you start allowing the VA and Congress to start taking away these issues and taking away the ability to claim tinnitus, claim sleep apnea, then from there it's going to trickle down to some other stuff. Then it's going to be like, well, you have this injury, but that's a secondary issue. That's not the main issue. And I was like, so what's the main issue here? I was like, yeah, I caused it. It started with tinnitus, then it became migraines because the ringing in the ears constant and it doesn't stop. And if they start taking that away, saying it's like, oh, it's a secondary thing. What is tinnitus secondary to? I'm not sure how you put that into a claim, but I think that's what they're going for. It was like, well, if you have to have it as a secondary, then that means you can't connect tinnitus to everything else. Now you have to find something to connect tinnitus to, and then from there continue the process. Because it's like, hey, it's a cost saving effect. There was like 50% disability rating is a get them out. Good check. You get in a check. Plus the 10%, that's another one. And it's just like if you have that, sleep apnea, you got migraines, and you got tinnitus, like I said, that's 50 and 50. 50%. 50% of that gives you 75, and then that other 10% gives you like 78 something. But you're still at that 80 part. So it's like, yes, we want to thank you for what you've done with the PACT Act, with changing of the laws and adding all these laws and adding all these bills. But the one thing is just like when it's like fuck you for your service, it's more also it's like what is going on with all these Afghanistan, Iraq deployment personnel? That was like 20-year war. So a lot of these people are now getting out of the military. So where is the thank you for those 20 years? Because that's why recruiting is down, because people don't want to deal with this shit. It was like, hey, we might start another war. If we do, we do. We don't, we don't. Some people with it, some people ain't. But at the same time, it's like, thank you for your service. Now that you out, it's like, fuck you. We don't give a shit what you got to do. Fend for yourself. When you're in, oh, it's thank you for joining. We'll do this. We'll look out for you. We'll take care of this. But then, fuck you for serving because you're living in mold. But then that's the thing. How is that being reported? Because if you had soldiers that were living in mold, doesn't that have long term effects? But how is the soldier supposed to prove that if you never notated that your buildings had mold? Now you have to get a buddy statement or something like that and try to figure out who had mold. All these buildings had mold. A lot of them got mold. At the end of the day, it's just gonna be like, oh well, we can't prove it. There's no way of serving connecting the issues you develop because of it, and that's where it becomes a problem. And that's where it's like, fuck you for your service. Why? Because that was when you were serving. You ain't serving no more. So fuck you. Thank you, but fuck you at the same time. And it's just like you get confused because it's like I thought y'all were here to help me out after the fact, after I sacrificed what I did to help you out. And then Congress is trying to take those things away because they want to save a couple of bucks here and there. But then you find that the VA is spending money here, VA spending money there, but the money isn't going to the actual veterans. You're developing this, you're spending millions and billions of dollars on developing plans and all that. And it was just like, hey, thank us by actually taking care of us. Thank us by looking out for us. Thank us by developing laws and coming up with stuff that actually benefits us and helps us. Not stuff that is going to be like, oh, let's make it difficult for people to obtain certain claims because of certain issues. When right now, people can barely get these claims when they have the issue. So that's part of the issue with the VA, with Congress. It's like, hey, y'all got to get this shit together because y'all putting money into it, but then y'all trying to take money out from the veterans, not from the VA institution itself, from the veterans themselves. Why? Because it's not being done correctly. Finances, the audits, shit. The Pentagon failed. How many years straight have they failed? I think it's like three straight years that they failed, maybe more. But then that's the Pentagon. So imagine the VA with all these personnel that file for stuff for being reevaluated incorrectly or being looked at incorrectly, and that's happening on a day-to-day basis. So if you want to thank the veterans, take care of the veterans. Look out for the veterans. Make sure we get rid of the homeless veterans because the homeless number grew. And I forgot to mention that with the fuck you part of being a veteran. It's just like, why do we have homeless veterans? Why? Even if it's a little community, even if you have to set them up in certain communities, each state basically has a like retirement home. But you mean to tell me y'all can't make one of those into like a homeless home? Try to get people back on their feet, kind of stuff for the homeless, the veterans. They were willing to sacrifice themselves for the country, but the country ain't sacrificing for them, and that's like a big fuck you to them, and a big fuck you to any veteran that sees that. If you see a homeless veteran, it's just like help him out, ask him how you doing, and can get him some food, some water, something. But you're not thanking them. That's not a way of saying thank you, and that's a big issue going forward. It's just like thank veterans by helping them out. Thank veterans by getting them off the street. Thank veterans for getting them mental health, physical therapy, surgeries, everything like that, helping out their families, which they do that, which is a thank you to them. But at the same time, it's like be consistent with it, because a lot of the times there's certain veterans that slip through the cracks, and those end up committing suicide, and that's the issue. Where it's a problem, where it's just like they feel like it was just like, hey, fuck you to them, because it's like, hey, you ain't looking out for me. And it was just like that's something we need to get better at as the veteran community, the Congress, and the Veteran Affairs Association, department, institution, whatever department or whatever you want to call them. That's something that needs to be done. And it's just like, hey, y'all worried about claim sharks, but y'all ain't worried about the veterans themselves. Let's get the veterans the help they need, and then from there, educate them enough that they won't have to deal with a shark. They won't have to deal with those institutions or those organizations that it's like, yeah, we're gonna help you, but we're also gonna take most of your money, or money for the rest of your life. You're gonna be paying us a check for it. When it's just like, I could have just gone and done a seminar, or I could have gone on YouTube and just tried to research as much as I can. Now, like I said, it's either thank you or fuck you. Now, we got to figure which one it is. Hopefully, it leans towards thank you, but right now, there's a lot of fuck yous going around, and we need to change that so that way veterans are taken care of. Now, that ends this episode of Cruise Talks. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I will catch you on the next one. Peace.